How's it going, guys? Joe here. Today we're going to continue some of that Fitbit development stuff as promised. So let's get to it. So I'm actually going to be kind of changing how it's recording data once again. And then I think I'll try to have it do the time range all in one day. I don't know how that's going to work doing that all in one live stream, but I'll give it a shot once and store two different copies of the program, because if I start doing the time range and I realize it's not working the way I want to be able to easily go back to where it logs. So I'm going to store separate copies to do both of those things. So that's how I'm going to do it. So anyway, I finally upgraded Mac to Big Sur, so everything looks a little bit different now. Al dente is compatible, so I can limit the battery percent to 80%. But of course it charged as it was updating, so it's at 100 right now. So we'll have to see how well that works. But as far as I can tell, the scene switching seems to work even if OBS isn't in focus now. I had to keep re-enabling the permission every time I use it, but I'll take it. Being able to switch scenes without having to get OBS in focus like I used to will be very nice. So anyways, what kind of change am I going to make to the logging today? Well, I was thinking it actually does make more sense for me to log every 5 minutes, like get the average every 5 minutes regardless. However, to not have it log unless it's above the resting heart rate, so it won't log too frequently and stuff. And also, at the end of REM, there's generally quite a bit of motion that occurs. Like, I do know when a REM cycle ended today, like, I can confirm it. And we can see kind of how much motion there was to determine the criteria. So, essentially, I'm going to log in the same way, but the only difference is now, when I'm in REM, it'll kind of, the motion is actually only going to be relevant while it's collecting REM data, essentially. And then the requirement is that it has to be going on for at least 15 minutes before it goes off and stuff. So I think on the log, maybe I'll have it keep track of the total number of minutes it thinks it was going on for. And then that'll kind of help with the time range part as well. So there'll be a part where it thinks it's started and a part where it thinks it's ended. And I think I'll have it keep track of when the interval starts, it'll keep track of that time. Then when the interval ends, it'll keep track of that time. And then after it's supposedly completed, then I think I'll have it then log it after it has an estimated time range. But first I want it to log in this way where it does 5 minutes regardless of what happens. So I think the code where I have REM will still continue the same way. But yeah. So yeah. Let's just get to it. So yeah, now I can finally switch the scene while the browser's in focus, which is pretty nice, but I don't know if that's going to work throughout the entire stream. I've had to fix it multiple times. I also had trouble getting my Steam controller working after I upgraded OS X. So, like, I had to do a whole bunch of screwing around with stuff like, let me make sure I'm still streaming and stuff. So, let me make sure the scene switching still works. Cool. I also tried the advanced scene switcher, by the way. I did end up getting it installed, but I can't get it to recognize the regions and stuff. It might be broken in Mac, because I know it works fine in Windows. Or it could be the version of OBS, I don't know. I mean, when it comes to the hardware side of things, it does seem like that Mac just works. But I would say when it comes to the software side, that's the case for Windows. Although Windows has had a ton of glitches recently, like an unbelievable amount that Mac just doesn't have. And I think that's just more of a quality control thing. Like there's stuff that Mac kind of struggles with and always has. For example, my webcam is only 720p right now, even though it's capable of 1080, and Mac is limiting me with that. If I went to boot camp with Windows, I'd be able to do this in 1080p no problem. And with a live stream I'm going to be doing later with the Raspberry Pi, I'll maybe link that in the description of this one if I remember to. But I'll probably be live streaming from my Intel Nook. And in that case, I'll be able to actually have the webcam 1080p. So that would be nice. So anyway, I thought I might as well show the data because I still have it. I just wish there was an easy way for me to scroll to the top. Another thing that's, oh wow, there's a lot of drift with the second. The second is drifting quite a bit, unfortunately. I don't know why, but that might just be something I have to deal with for right now. I don't think I changed anything regarding that. Like, did I change anything regarding the check second? No. The interval formula is still exactly the same, so I don't know why that would be occurring. I'm just scrolling up to the top on this log because I've scrolled down a ways. That's one of the ways this log is really painful. That's why if I'm confident with how the data collection is, it would be nice to be able to just do time ranges. Then it's only going to log like 8 things throughout the entire night tops. In fact, generally people have like 4 or 5 REM cycles if they have a pretty healthy sleep schedule. Like with consistency and fairly decent length as well, I think. Oh, I made it to the top. Cool. So I think I'm going to do that same trick as I did before, so when I was showing it live. So I'm going to look at today's sleep chart. All this awake right here was from my wild attempt. I kind of screwed that up. And there was supposed to be REM right here. However, that wild attempt failed as well. I accidentally woke up as a dream was forming once again, which is kind of unfortunate. But I think I'm finding myself on the overthinking side of things. What I've actually noticed is when I don't expect the sleep paralysis sensations to occur, then I tend to be able to ease into it pretty well. However, when I expect it to occur, then when it ends up occurring, I end up on the overthinking side like right away. Like I'm starting to become overly observant over what's going on, and then that's causing me to wake up from it. So what I really just need to do is chill the smeg out, and that'll fix that problem. So yeah, I almost had it dialed, but the problem is I accidentally prolonged the natural start of the REM cycle. I did for sure wake up right there though. But yeah, I prolonged the start of the REM cycle here, so that never ended up. Well, no. What am I even saying? I did for sure wake up right there. Then I started to do my wild attempt, and I accidentally prolonged it. In fact, I probably should have been having REM during this entire light sleep period right here, with how my circadian rhythm currently is, and I prolonged it, so it was probably when the end of the dream was occurring anyway. So, because I was only having the sensations for like 1 second. Usually it lasts about a minute if I'm gonna successfully enter a dream. Sometimes it can be as short as 30 seconds though. Depends on like whether I'm doing it de-isled or if I'm entering REM from the very start. Because I do get a lot of each one. It's more de-isled, honestly, because I often fail wild, but I found that if I wake up, then oftentimes the REM cycle tends to not be over when I'm doing the wild attempts, so I can re-enter with de-isled even if I screw up. And I happen to not get lucid during the dream that did end up happening for as long as it did. So, yeah. Then right here, I almost had a second one, but I only had the sensations for about 5 seconds that time. And I immediately went into overthinking mode, and I became overly observant over what was going on because, to be honest with you, I was almost too ready for it in a sense that's what happened. The things I'm going to try next time, I'm essentially not even going to worry about trying to remember it. If I forget, oh well, but otherwise I'm going to really do nothing but maintaining awareness and stuff. That's really it. Because you don't have to do anything, especially since it probably occurred at the beginning of that realm, assuming this is accurate. That realm, that realm, that realm, and that realm. It occurred during all of those, assuming that's accurate, but I would have had 2 more successful ones right here, but it didn't really work out. So I may try again tomorrow depending on the situation, but I am losing just a little bit of sleep by doing that, especially if I don't enter REM successfully. And this one was very prolonged. Like the start of it should have probably been like right at about 9:06, but I was too awake that I didn't end up going to sleep for a little while, and then it started later than it should have. And with the circadian rhythm, it ended at around the same time it probably would have otherwise. I tried re-entering, but it didn't work out. I think it really was the end because I tend to get a pulsing sensation in my brain. That's probably one of the best ways to describe it. And I only had it once. Usually it happens many times per second, but it only occurred once. So it didn't work out that time. And then here it occurred like maybe 10 times. So it lasted maybe 5 seconds, and then, yeah, it didn't really work out too well. So this REM cycle I can confirm right here, and I had a decent amount of recall here and also here. Yeah, I remember, wait. Yeah, I think I had some dreams right here as well. Then I waited a cycle because deep sleep and wilds, in my opinion, they don't go together very well. In fact, wilds are miserable to do when I'm still getting deep sleep yet, or I'm in a point where it's gonna occur. But here I didn't have it for the rest of the day. As you can see, that's where it tends to work the best, when I'm not seeking deep sleep anymore. That's why I always target the second half of the night when it's pretty much over with. So yeah, anyway, let's take a look at it. So I think what I'll do is do that thing with my webcam, if it's not super tangled up. Not too bad. So I'll make the view a little bit better. Then I'll go like this so you can see the chart at the same time. Come on. I don't always have full control over the focus. So we're looking at the rightmost number at this point, which does kind of simplify everything. So 66 at 3:34. That's above my resting heart rate, so I would expect dreaming was occurring around there. Let's see how it is according to the chart. So, yeah, 3:34. And this thing reported 64 at the 3:34 mark. So, that's right. So that is REM. even though it was a very short period of time, it did technically nail it in that sense. Come on, focus. Are you gonna focus, camera, or what? There we go. 61, that's right on. So I don't really expect anything is occurring there. But the app is reporting 60 instead of 61, so that's a little interesting, but yeah. So I'm just looking at the rightmost numbers and seeing when that 56, I suspect there's no dreaming occurring right there. According to the chart, that's correct. There is no dreaming occurring right there. Sorry, the focus. I'm very aware that the focus is like not great. 56 again, no dreaming. There isn't any dreaming right there. Oh, 59, and then all of a sudden 72, 456, is that right? Yeah, that's just about the end of it right there, though. So you have 456 to 59, then all of a sudden it's 72. See, that's where there's going to be some inaccuracies, because the resting heart, or the heart rate, was pretty low for quite a bit of it. Then all of a sudden it's up there. So it may not measure it entirely accurate if the heart rate happens to be pretty low. 65, that's at 502. I believe that was, yeah, that's still inside of realm, as you can see. So would have had at least those 5 minutes accurate. Come on. So then the total amount of motion did add up to like over 500 by the end of it. But not at one time. So maybe if the realm was supposedly at least 15 minutes, maybe I'd want to like add up motion over the course of 5 minutes, and if it's like 1,000 at least or something, see how much motion generally happens. This is a very uncomfortable position for my wrists right now. So it's still, so that's 56, 602. Nope, that's deep sleep, so it's not REM as the heart rate suggests. So that is accurate. Yeah, now I'm getting lactic acid buildup. 628, is there a REM there? Yep. But as you can see, the average is like 60. That's one of the reasons I want to do it every 5 minutes, not just when there's motion. But it's not going to log unless it's above the resting heart rate, right? So 637, that heart, there's some duplicate entries, as you can see. I suppose even though the second keeps changing, it's close enough. I barely even noticed that it did. I wish I had manual focus right now, because that would certainly fix that problem. So 637, I suggest it's in REM. Yep. Until 641, you can see on the chart. So now we're at 63 at 642. That suggests that it's still in REM, but we've just gotten out of it. And there was hardly any motion made, it looks like. So it would be pretty difficult to tell. I feel like, hey man, what's up? Um, so yeah, that's 0 right there. Um, it's 56. That's not REM. Nope, it's definitely not. So let's see how much motion there actually, if there's like a correlation. And to be perfectly honest with you, if there isn't motion right after REM, it's probably not a good one to target anyway. Come on. I apologize about the focus. You know, I'm going to see if there is any setting at all for manual focus. I'd be interested to see if it's possible to achieve. Um, it's not even giving me settings. Sorry, I know that disappeared. Wait, what? Wait, it's actually letting me do 1080p. Holy macro. I've never been able to achieve that before. Thanks, Jad. It's called a Fitbit Sense, if you were wondering. And it does support development, as you've probably seen. So now I'm just, I suppose I could show this. Just kind of messing with some of the settings on the camera there. But I'm not getting options for like focus or anything like that. I just discovered something new. I did not know that that could be achieved. So let me change this webcam to also be 1080p. I've never been able to. So now the webcam should actually be a little bit clearer than it has been in the past. We'll have to see if that makes a difference. That's kind of cool, even though I can't do anything with focus. See, this is really starting to get a little bit ridiculous. And then the screen goes off just when I get it in focus. That doesn't help either. Anyway, so I wouldn't suspect REM right there. But if I keep going, 65, so 754. Is there a REM at 754? Well, yep. So that's correct. But it would probably be a little more accurate if I have a collect data every 5 minutes and then only log if it's above resting heart rate. There's duplicate entries, but I'm not concerned about that. That's just how I have the functions set up at the moment. 67 looks like it's still REM. According to that time range, it is. Looks like it's until 8:12. And then 8:04. Yep, still looks like it's REM. According to the chart, it is. And I woke up right after that cycle, and based on the amount of dream recall, I would say it's definitely at least that long. 8:09, still REM. That's correct. 8:12. There's not doing anything at all. Oh, because of the whole interval thing. So, how much motion is that? So that's from 8:12 to, so 213 plus 221, that's just a little under 500, plus just a little under 200, that's probably just a little under 700. So that spans to over 1,000 over the course of how long? So how do I want to span the motion? So if it's in REM, and then there's close to 1,000 motion over the course of 5 minutes or something, when there starts being motion, like maybe if the motion is greater than 100 or something, then I'll start adding up over the course of 5 minutes. And if it gets to, that got to pretty close to 1,000, right? Was that pretty close to 1,000? I didn't really keep track. Well, if it was, then I think that would be a pretty good indicator that round probably ended. But I would probably add 5 minutes to a total. I don't know exactly how I'm going to do that. So I do think I'm going to have it log every 5 minutes regardless, or get the average every 5 minutes. So before I forget to switch the screen, let's see. So it collects, right, so it's going to get an average until the total is greater than 150, right? So I think I do have the old code from yesterday right in my GitHub, which is in the description of this video. But you can go to github.com/Zinzi23, then you'll see the lucid dreaming one right on there, and then you just navigate those programs and you'll be able to find this yourself. So I'm storing all the different versions of the code from the past. So I have a bunch of fail safes, and then it can be easily accessed just by going to this link. So total being greater than 150, I'm going to start doing it every 5 minutes regardless. So that's going to be based on what HR index is. If data is being collected every 30 seconds, then 5 minutes, the HR index will be greater than or equal to 10. Because it goes up by 1 every 30 seconds. So I'm going to change this to, if HR index is greater than or equal to 10, then get the average heart rate. However, I'll do the ternary operator again. I have almost never used the ternary operator throughout my life, and here I'm using it like 3 or more times all of a sudden. So I was going to like create an if statement, then return average HR or else 0. But what I'm going to do is, it's going to, if the heart rate is below the resting heart rate, then I'm going to have it be 0. I'm not going to have it log anything at all. But then if it's above the resting heart rate, it'll be whatever it happens to be. So ternary operator is a good way to deal with that. So if you've never seen it before, it's essentially kind of like a fancy if statement, but it's part of a variable expression based on a condition. So I'll demonstrate it. So return resting HR, or no, return average HR is greater than resting. If it's true, then it'll be whatever, it'll return whatever average HR is. Otherwise it'll return 0. Looks pretty fancy, but that's essentially how the ternary operator works. And I can write it all on one line instead of like doing if average HR is greater than resting, return average HR, else return 0. This actually condenses that into one line. So it's a pretty fancy way of doing that. So if it's not rem, then I'm going to have it do that. But if it is rem, I think that's what I want. It should just do it every 5 minutes. But yeah, then if it's less than the resting, it won't log at all. If it's greater than, it will. I think that's a good way to go about doing that. But if I want to like do the time range thing, then that's not going to work so well. Let's just worry about how it's going to log for right now. So then if it is REM, I still want it to do it every 5 minutes. I might create another variable for keeping track of the total amount of REM. I don't know. And since it's going to be adding up over time, I could have it start at 0. Then let's see here. If it's less than the resting, then is REM is false. But if it's greater than resting still, then total REM plus equals 5, since this just happens to run every 5 minutes, and it's safe to assume that's the case, like when it actually starts doing it. But do I want it to do it the first time it logs it? Maybe I'll just see what happens when I try it. So total REM plus equals 5. Then if it's no longer resting, then, well, how do I do it based on the whole motion thing? How do I span out the total amount of motion over the course of like 5 minutes? Might create another variable that keeps track of that too. Let total motion equals 0. Then where's the total get used? Did it return, or it resets to 0, right? It looked like it did. Where does total reset? Oh man, there's so many like stacked functions that I'm getting lost all the way down here when I'm really looking all the way up here. So if it's REM, the total does add up over time. Well, it resets every time it logs. Kind of tempted to add the total if it's what are you referring to, Jad? Sorry, the chat's kind of hidden in the corner, so it's a little bit hard to see. I'll try to remember my... Oh, I could just drag the window over to the left, then I can see it without looking at it from a weird angle or whatever. Come on. Are you talking about the ternary operator? I know there's a little bit of delay with live streams, but I'll look out for your answer if you're still watching. So let me think here. So what I want is to get like a a total spanned over time. But right here it resets to 0. So that's gonna be a little bit tricky. Maybe I just increment the variable right here as well, and then clear it out as needed. That might be the right approach. Kind of a dumb one, but I think it'll work. So total motion plus equals that. So we essentially have two variables that store the total, and because I don't want it to reset right away, but let's see here. Oh, so every 5 minutes, every time yeah, this will run every 5 minutes. So every time this runs, then we reset that other total variable. That might work. If average HR is less than resting, then yeah, it becomes false, but boy, how do I do this? The code will run down to here. I think I'll set it to less than so yeah, when it does this, it'll also look at the total that spans over the course of 5 minutes. That's what that variable will achieve. But if total is, did it go up to 1,000? I'm just gonna real quickly check if it can go that high. Oh, come on. Calculator. So 352 plus 254 plus 271 plus 166. That's over the course of like 5 minutes. So it ended at 812. Well, there was also motion there. 812 to 817 is all I should count. That is all I'm counting. What's the most recent number? 166 plus 221. Oh, that's way over 1,000. So if it's at least 1,000 when it's getting the REM average, you know, I also kind of wanted to reset the interval. Kind of tempted to like just have it reset the interval whenever. Oh, not total. This is total motion. Yeah. Okay, so brain feels a little bit fried at the moment. And if I'm live streaming almost the rest of the day, how's that gonna fly? Total motion is greater than 1,000. I kind of want to have that in here, like every 30 seconds, actually. Then total motion will reset every time this occurs. Boy, when I don't like fully brainstorm, I do stuff on the spot. That's not great. It's easy for the brain to fry. I'm tempted to put it here. So if total motion is greater than 1,000, it's still going to do it every 5 minutes because this will run every 5 minutes. Oh, and I kind of want it to only do it if is rem is true. I think I'll use the ternary operator here as well. So is rem, then it's equal to that. Otherwise, yeah, just then add 0. That works. Boy, I actually did something just the other day that would have been pretty complicated, and to be perfectly honest with you, like I had to do a series of if statements and it had to be in the right order. It had to match all these different rules, and to be honest with you, I didn't really feel like trying to figure it out. So I ended up like using a bunch of ternary operators. Probably shouldn't have done that. I don't know if probably not the best way to go about doing that, but it worked for my case. So honestly, I would say it's about using the tools you have. That's really what this is all about, I would say. So only if there is rem, then the total motion will go up at all. And it'll keep resetting as long as is rem is true. So let's see here. I'm blanking out. Oh, so if total motion is greater than 1,000, then if it just happens to span out to that, and the resting heart rate is where does total rem reset? I think I'll reset it right there. And total rem is greater than or equal to 15, and do then I'm tempted to just clear the interval. This is where the alarm in theory would go off. This is where I'm tempted to get a new average. Just to see if the heart rate is now below. If total motion is greater than 1,000 and that's only within a 5-minute period. And if total rem is greater than or equal to 15, that would stop this from occurring. Clear interval into rem. Maybe. is realm equals false. And then do I want it to log the data then? I don't know how well this is going to work. Because if I want to log the data, then I would just return average HR. Oh, then the total realm resets. And then return average HR, maybe. Not sure if that's what I want to do exactly, but I would try it. Wish I knew of a really good way to test this. I suppose we could try using it with the simulator. As you can see, this is getting pretty complicated, and even I'm starting to get lost. Well, and I'm starting to get, I can't believe I'm actually starting to get familiar with ternary operators now. Because I pretty much never used it my entire life until just the other day, like within the last week, and now I'm using it all over the place. What changed exactly? Well, I suppose the amount of programming I'm doing at the moment. Sometimes it's not what I primarily do, but sometimes I have to do it to achieve something. So it's one of those things that I'll be doing every once in a while. And of all those times, I've never really used a ternary operator, but there's probably quite a few situations where I would have. It's one of those things where it's easy to forget, then you have to look it up, but then you don't feel like doing that, so you do it the old-fashioned if statement way. Because of laziness, mainly. And I suppose the amount of time invested. So does the scene switcher still work? It doesn't? That's a real bummer. Yeah, the scene switching isn't working anymore. So OBS has to be in focus now. What makes that occur? I think it's just a stupid glitch with Mac. It's a permission issue regarding monitoring keyboard input. I know when I use my Intel NUC, hopefully my capture card will work with my laptop. Because if so, then I'll be able to use my Intel NUC for the other live stream I'm going to be doing today. And in that case, I can actually maybe use the Stream Deck if I have enough USB ports. I'm going to be using my Thunderbolt dock with the laptop for the display. And then the other two ports will probably be cameras. And I don't think I'm going to be doing it over Wi-Fi just because of connection. Honestly, it might not hurt. But on the other hand, I do want to be able to plug it into a charging port if I want to charge that thing. I actually do need to right now. I'm going to maybe use my old phone as a camera, otherwise I may just end up using my webcam. I'll play around with that setup. That's a setup for a completely different video, so I'm not going to think about that right now. So I just kind of wrote down, so 5 minutes regardless, but if realm, then wait, so is there anywhere that motion has anything to do with stuff? So it's adding data points every 30 seconds, but it's only right. Now it's every 5 minutes because of the HR index. It might not even be exact if the interval is off a little bit, but I think it'll be close enough. I think it'll all work out in the end, even if some happy accidents happen in between. For my purpose, I think that'll be okay. So yeah, I think this, assuming this actually works well, I think this is where I'm going to have the alarm go off. And that's where the something to do with the time range may go there too. So, um, so yeah, 5 minutes regardless. But if realm then do its normal behavior, except get the total amount, and if there's like greater than 1,000 motion within 5 minutes, and yeah, so this will reset it. But if the total motion happens to be greater than 1,000, as long as is rem is true, then if plus equals move x, move y, move z, otherwise it just adds 0 to it. That'll work mathematically. Another optimization I was actually thinking of making that I think will be really quick is when the data collection stops, which will be right here, then I also kind of wanted to stop the sensors. So I think I might create another function called stop data. So function stop data, and then the clear interval will go in there. So I want to call the stop data and keep it on a single line. Essentially, I want to clear the interval for add data int, which it does, right? Yeah, so I can get rid of that. Oops. But this will stop the sensors from occurring, because after I've done my data collection, do I need that to keep going? Oh wow, I have one of those touch bars on my Mac. It's almost like a little touch screen, like where the F keys are on a keyboard normally. I think it's doing a lot more stuff than it used to ever since I updated. I suppose that's another pro. But yeah, in order to fix the Steam controller drivers, I literally had to go into recovery mode, and the website was a little bit unclear because it said Command-R. I wasn't sure if that meant Command-R or something else in between, like Alt, because Command-Alt-R has to do with recovery mode as well, I believe. But I can see how they wouldn't have been able to print that character, so because Alt is kind of a fancy key, like that first symbol right there. I can see how they wouldn't have been able to print that one, so they just use a dash. So I ended up doing Alt Command R to get into recovery mode when first starting up the Mac. And it was doing this browser icon thing, and it was like taking forever to load, and I'm like, is this even right? Recovery mode can't possibly take this long. Then I started to be like, is it resetting to factory defaults? Like, could Command Alt R mean reset to factory? I looked it up, and it turns out that if the system is corrupt, I think what it does is it downloads an image of a recovery media online. I think that's what it was doing. It probably would have taken a few hours. So, yeah, so I think I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not doing that. It's Command R is the answer on this Mac. So then I got into recovery mode. It took me a little while to find the terminal, but there's a utilities on here with the main application that comes up. It's essentially like safe mode, but for Mac, I think. And I ran some commands. I think what they did was sent like a panic signal and essentially disabled all the permissions. I think the issue was a certain permission wasn't enabled, and I couldn't figure out what that was. So essentially this panic signal disabled all permissions on the spot. Almost went into like a lockdown type mode, but with the permissions alone. And I could manually re-enable them again, including what was required for the Steam controller and stuff. Still doesn't work. I'm just going to see if going into big picture mode would just happen to do anything. I just went into big picture mode and got out and nope. That really sucks. I have a different shortcut that now works without a program either, but I don't want to use it because it disconnects Wi-Fi and thus would screw up the stream. So I don't want to even test that one. Just to see if I can get that shortcut working again. That sucks. Some permission that needs to be enabled and disabled. So let's make that. Yeah, I pretty much did make the optimization already, which was disable the sensors. So when it's like greater than 1300, and then we gotta actually call that function. Stop data collection. I think that's all that's required. Then I think it makes sense to do some testing at this point. And I'm going to be using that button again. I really just have to uncomment everything. So, why don't we try it? I can't even think of what I'm trying exactly because I'm lost. I think we might have it. We'll see. So, simulator. I've noticed some things that used to be pretty good performance lag now, thanks to this update. That's another reason why I was hesitant on the update, because it seems like they'll do that over time. Except for on the newest devices. I will admit my Mac does feel a little bit newer, just with the overall look, but anyway, let's just try this. Wonder if the connection's any better. Like how it is with Windows. That did happen pretty quickly. Oh, and then we gotta modify it so it's simulator friendly, which means adding the button. So I'm gonna uncomment this. Not doing anything with styles. That. And then I know how to like uncomment the button and whatnot. But the other things I'm going to change, I need to make it obvious what's going on. So this total, kind of tempted to copy and paste this, but I have a feeling I'm going to be overwriting. So I'll run this. See there, I already copy and pasted something. I know it's this whole block. And disable this. Oh, then this will be 1 second. This will be 10 seconds, I guess. Boy, we're gonna have to change some of these numbers around, aren't we? What numbers are we changing exactly? Well, we'll just figure it out. Do some of it and then see what happens. So 10. 15 would still be a good number for that because it'll be every 3 yet. And that 350 will be able to make the total motion over 1,000 as needed. Let's just see if we get what we want. The connection does seem a little bit better, doesn't it? So nothing's being logged. And I don't think anything's being logged here either. Oh, that is being logged if it's... Is that okay? Oh, right. I wanted to get the average, but I don't want to display it. Right. If it is greater than the resting heart rate, the average, then I do want to display it. Like, regardless of whether it's in REM. Oh, this maybe didn't put it in REM. Unless it's not. Oh boy. So this makes it return the resting if it is above. Do I want it to actually return it if it's out of REM? Maybe not. So in this case, I would return 0. Because, yeah, if it's not in REM, I may not want it to average. No, I mean, well, of course it's still averaging, but displaying that. But I might, I could display the resting heart rate, even if it's not in REM. Then I'd be able to check, like, is it recording it? Is it not? I could check stuff. So I think I'm going to actually go with this, but I'm going to remind myself that I'm keeping it in Y. So, checking if resting is, if HR is above resting, but so checking if HR is above resting. But just to check if missing realm, I don't even know if that's what I wanted to comment, but I'm doing it either way. So yeah, I'm actually okay with the Druid map for now, but I might find that a little bit confusing, like when doing this. So is realm, when does that become true? Only if oh, that isn't regarding motion at all. That's not regarding motion at all, is it? Yeah, actually that is probably what I want. It probably is considered realm right now. So then, movement is not defined. I probably had that commented out. I like that clock disappearing thing. So at this point, it probably is considered realm. So now it's not logging when it's below the resting. But then I think if REM was at least 15 minutes, then what's happening? So if REM is at least 15 minutes, I just want to like see when that actually triggers. This is really hard to do, as you can imagine. Oops. So if I bump the button, I guess it scrolls like that. So REM is at least 15. So does emotion only count if it's right? It has to have at least 1,000 motion in order for anything to really count, right? Which it doesn't yet. Total keeps resetting. That's okay. Let's just see if it still considers realm occurring. So nothing actually ended up really happening yet. Oh, God. I don't know if that quite added up. Yeah, let's just go like this. Does it actually have to line up perfectly? Would it stop teleporting like that? That's at least 1,000. Still things around may be occurring. So the motion has to line up with when it's resetting. I think it will, because we actually had like 500 to spare maybe. So if it lines up, then that's great. Not, oh well. So, um, kind of tempted to look at the total realm at the moment. So, I might not be in it right now. Oh, yep. So it's not adding up unless it actually is 5 or whatever. Makes sense. I don't know why I keep scrolling if it's even necessary, but I've formed the habit and temptation to I'm gonna try to make it so there's enough motion. Come on. Still not. I don't think it. Is it actually not doing it? What's total motion? So that's what the problem is. It's not a number. Value out of bounds for native type. Line 81. I don't think that's where the problem really is. Wait, scrolling's not working anymore. Is that what the real problem is, or? What just happened? Wait, it was happening when we clicked this button. What kind of error just happened? What are we logging at the moment? Just total motion. It's always 0 for some reason. So is rem true? I need to see if that's true or not. False. Yep. That's what I would expect. But when it starts logging that 76, I expect it to be true. So it's true right now. Yep. Oops. Wrong place for that. That's where it's supposed to be. I realized it was in the if statement, which didn't seem right. So total motion not going up right there. Total motion is not increasing for some reason. It's a global variable, I think, so we would otherwise be getting a reference error. So something's wrong with the total motion variable. Is rem is a global variable, so that's not the problem. Oh, that's right. That's not what we're doing here either, is it? Total motion doesn't even correlate. So it's really a simulator problem. The reason I need to use a simulator is got to do with being able to mess with the heart rate. That's what's wrong. So this doesn't really correlate. Why don't we copy this? And then here I'm just gonna have it be plus equals total, otherwise 0. Boy, it's always, the answer is always simple than you think. Don't try to make things more complicated than they have to be. So that's essentially what happened here. I just kind of overcomplicated stuff. So if I click there, were we supposed to get motion yet? Was that supposed to go up? I don't even know if what's going on exactly. Boy, just by changing the rules, it causes all this trouble. Unbelievable. Boy, it's as if that function isn't even triggering. It's behaving as if this isn't triggering at all, because I'm not seeing a console log for the total. Why not? The accelerometer starts and it's set to have a frequency of 2. So it's almost like it's not even happening at all. We got the total here though, right? Yeah. I really just want to do whatever that total is, I think. So I need total motion here. That would work. So rather than doing it right here, I could, right before the total actually does reset, then I could do total motion plus equals the total right there before the total becomes 0. That would work because total is 350 right now. Now it's going to actually correlate with the total variable like I want it to. I think that'll be better. I don't know why it wasn't triggering exactly, but I think this will work better. This is like workaround to the problem I was just experiencing. Now see what happened here. That happened as soon as I pressed the button. Cannot set property to not a number. What happens when I press the button? Let's just follow the logic here. So total becomes 350 or 0. There's no reason why that shouldn't ever work. What? Seems like the error's happening when I scroll. So What's even happening here? See, why is it happening sometimes and not others? Might just be a glitch with the button. So yeah, total motion was just 350. Then it resets to 0. So now it's triggered. It's supposed to go back into REM as soon as it did. So it said waking up from REM. Then the variable became false. Then it very quickly became true again in a hurry. Why? The resting heart rate. I don't want it to go back in such a hurry. Would that have been a problem? I mean, we saw that it got out of REM. So it's false right now. But then it very quickly becomes true again. So it only goes back in because the resting heart rate is still up there. It's all based on the heart rate. So that's a problem. There should be a gap, right? Like there should be a pretty decent gap when I'm out of REM before it can go back in. Do we need to have a gap of like 30 minutes? Tempted to create another let total n REM equals 0. So when we get out of REM, then total NREM will reset too, right? And then if average is greater than resting and come on total NREM, so it goes up once every 30 seconds in the real world. So I want it to be like 30 minutes. We determined that 10 of them is equivalent to 5 minutes times 6 is 60. So yeah, so if I want 30 minutes, I multiply that by 2, that is 60. So if it's greater than 60, that's what the criteria will be. So total NREM is greater than 60. That's the only time REM can be true. And then here, total NREM, when does that reset? That resets when we get out of here, so I think total NREM equals 0 here. Why don't we just see if that works? So this is really, all this stuff is really just to do a different type of logging. That's all it is. So the heart rate is high enough, it's just that REM can't be declared until we've been out of it for like 30 seconds. Have we? Does it increment? If not, is REM. Yeah, total NREM plus plus. That's where we'll do it, I think. This turned into a ridiculous project for what I'm trying to accomplish. Thought about that a long time ago. It's almost like when I drag from the button itself, then it occurs. Oops, I probably didn't need to restart the simulator. That wasn't necessary at all. So, yeah, I just wasn't incrementing just now. So it'll scroll, but then if I scroll from the button or something, I'm guessing that's all that happened. So I imagine when I get rid of the button, then that glitch will never occur. Oh, so we're supposedly out of REM. So I think it has to be at least 30 seconds, 30 minutes rather, before I can really get into it. So are the numbers actually right? Yeah, it's just we're scaling it a little bit different, but the proportions are correct, I think. Oh, so yeah, 60 will be equivalent to 30 minutes, right? So 2 per second, 30 minutes. Yeah. We just have to wait an entire minute for that to become true. I think we just have like 10 more seconds left. Take moments of silence until that occurs. That should have happened by now, right? Um, if not, is REM. What's total NREM? Oops. Why do I have a feeling I could have referenced the wrong variable somewhere? Total NREM. One. What? So it doesn't do it till every 10. Oh. So since I am looking for 30 minutes, so that's every 5 minutes. So that occurs every 5 minutes, right? Greater than or equal to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I just want to make sure it kind of works with a nice round number or whatever. Yeah. So if I want it to be every 30 minutes, what's that equate to here? 30 minutes is equivalent to 10 is 5 minutes times 6 is 30. 10 is equivalent to 5 minutes. It's divided by 2, so I think when this goes 30, then I'm sorry, my math abilities just aren't working at the moment. So when that's 30, that's the same as 15 minutes. Oh, 60. So total NREM should be like divided by 10 though. That might be what I'm looking for. Here, let's get rid of the console log though too. Programming when your brain is fried really isn't the smartest idea. Just moving around every once in a while, even walking around to think might be a smart idea. If I can't think, then maybe trying to walk around to think like this would be a pretty smart idea. And I can just, after all, I'm wearing my microphone, so I can walk around and think. I don't have to be by the computer all the time. So, shoot, I didn't really keep track. So 24. Okay. Let's see if that does correlate with about 1 minute. I think 1 minute would be the equivalent. I just hope everything scales properly. Greater than 6, not like equal to 6. Okay, so total NREM is it waited, so it did it in like 1 minute and 10 seconds, greater than or equal to 6. I'm gonna have to verify that everything scales properly, so this will ensure that REM has quite a bit of spacing before it can occur again, because that's how it is in the real world. Plus, of course, I'm getting like REM rebound and stuff. Like yesterday when I had that 4 minute light sleep gap, and I did remember dreaming some more. Let's take a moment of silence while this occurs. Meditate for a little bit, maybe clear your mind, because I need that, I guess, if I could even do it in that short amount of time. So when this becomes true, then we'll start doing stuff again, but take the meantime to clear your mind. Hope it's true. So it's true, so let's make it false again. Total motion of 1400. Still true for some reason. Why didn't it become false again? Oh, is it because it didn't quite get all the way up to 15 or something? I mean, yeah, we waited a while, but that sure doesn't mean that REM went all the way to 15. Oh, but so REM will still become false here, right? Kind of hesitant to test that, because then we're going to have to make it sure again. Oh, good. It becomes false like it normally does, but so we have the grace period occurring. I'm almost at the point where I just want to let it do whatever it's going to do. Then I'm going to try maybe doing the time range thing after duplicating this program. I don't know how well this is actually going to work. So we're in REM again. Okay, now I'm caught up on scrolling. but not for very long. So, wait, so does it only get out if it's... I'm completely lost at this point. I don't know if, come on. Okay. So, there should be at least a 30-minute gap. Which there is. And let's take a moment to silence until it goes back in. I mean it this time. Oh, it's true. I'm just going to assume that that whole mechanism works now. So, let's get it changed back. It wasn't very silent for me because of my ringing in the ears that I typically have. So, that wasn't really great. I want to change it back, but I don't even know where to begin. Checking if HR is above resting, but just to check if missing REM. Oh, yeah, like when I analyze. Those parentheses probably weren't super great. Nope. I'll just do like quotes, I guess. So this is supposed to be that's a normal 5 minutes, right? I just hope everything scales properly. Yeah, if we end up programming an alarm, I can see how we would use that right here. But I just want to check accuracy, and I don't want to get false alarms necessarily. I would almost rather have it miss than a false alarm. But I don't know that for sure. Oh, so then, wait, did I actually, when I deleted some comments before, did I actually do what was originally meant? Yeah, right there I did, right there I did, right there I did. Yeah. Okay, so we have a mechanism for stopping our data collection after it's done. I'm pretty sure that's going to work fine. We want to get our actual total. I didn't even notice this there right away. I just kind of looked through the code and do that. So just want to make sure I'm not missing stuff. So button 1 and then the definition of button 1. Then movement. Index.view. Comment that out. Then comment this out. So I'm just going to kind of make sure that I think it'll respond normally. No button anymore. I would say let's get it on here, but as I said before, I want to make that one change to it. And then try to do a time range programming now. You know, now that I've done this, now that I programmed this whole mechanism, I think the time range mechanism will be pretty easy because it knows when the start of REM supposedly occurs as well as the end. Now that delay, do I want it to like start with that delay? Probably not. Because I don't want there to be a starting delay. Like, we're already waiting 2.5 hours. I only want that delay to apply like after I've had REM at least once. So to work around that, I think, oh, then is this 6? That's equivalent to 5 minutes. This will bring it to 30. And it's, was it inclusive before? Now it is, which was correct, I think. Because we had a second. It's normally doing it every 30 seconds, but we scaled it down to a second. Does everything scale correctly? The total REM plus equals 5. That's every 5 minutes. That scales correctly because 5 minutes is equivalent to that 5. 5 equals 5. You probably know that. Hopefully you learned that in elementary school, that 5 equals 5. And any number is technically equal to itself. So just checking if everything's actually scaling properly. So this means 30 seconds. I mean, this technically means 5 minutes. That goes up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's inclusive, so 5 minutes times like 6 is 30 minutes like I'm looking for. So that scales properly. Total motion will span over 5 minutes as well. Wait, does it? Total motion is greater than 1,000. But, right, so only if total REM is greater than or equal to 15. Otherwise, yeah, and then total motion, we're never going to have, this is always going to reset before total REM could even get to 15, so I think this is an okay mechanism right here. Stop data should work fine. Total motion is, oh, of course I did think ahead, so total motion won't ever go up unless we are in REM. Oh, that ternary operator, saving the day multiple times. That's cool. Now I am going to start using ternary operators a lot more. I was like, oh, that's so new generation, because I actually sometimes feel like I'm falling behind with my own generation. It's kind of embarrassing. I don't even want to talk about it, but that involves like for each. I never even used a for each loop because to me it's just too fancy right now. Ternary operator is, I'm just getting the hang of it here. Took me a little while to figure it out the first time, but then I got a pretty good idea from there. This looks bizarre though, like total motion plus equals what? Right? Yeah, just look up ternary operator if you're not familiar with that, but it is pretty fancy. And it allows me to condense things to one line. And you can actually do a nested ternary operator, so you can add a little bit of complexity to it. That's what I'm not comfortable doing yet. Even though I'm mostly comfortable doing this, I'm not comfortable nesting it right now. It's a matter of order of operations, though, with this. But yeah, you can totally nest it too, so... However, there has to be... No. This is not where equality is required. Like, you could do like is rem is greater than whatever. That is so cool. But you have to have like a single expression. But that's where you can do nest. That's where you can nest it. And if you're doing and or, you'll have to make sure the order is right for that. I'd probably write it out as if, and then try to translate it, see if you can get it to behave the same with ternary operator. But the thing is, you have to set a variable. It has to be in a variable assignment here, I think. That's the only place it's really useful anyway. Or if you're returning something. I think those are the only useful places for it. Anyway, so I can't believe we actually managed to get that. So right now I'm going to put the current copy of the code on GitHub for right now. So why is there two windows open? Smack glitching. So today is the 6th. And I haven't modified resources, so I'm going to take that out of today's. And then I'll have a folder with multiple of them. How does that work? Oh, so sorry, I'm just getting things added to GitHub, so I'm gonna move that to GitHub and then copy and paste this code, and then I'm gonna actually publish it to GitHub. So that's it. Okay, now I'm adding it to GitHub. Alright, sorry about that. We have the official code on GitHub now, so the code that we just did is now in this folder. So there's a folder called 1 because I'm going to be adding the second. I'm essentially going to make the program do time ranges now, but obviously if that time range doesn't work, I want to be able to refer back to this one. So one of the reasons I'm storing it like this. So this is our current code as of right now. It's getting pretty big, it looks like. But yeah, I think this is valid at this point. So, good, I remember to show the screen. I forgot to move the controller over, but I remembered to show the screen. I really wish I could figure out a better alternative. So, the controller doesn't work. Neither does the keyboard shortcut, so it's not the Steam controller causing the problem. Essentially, I press a button on the controller, it essentially presses the keyboard shortcut, which OBS listens to, but now it's not listening anymore, which kind of sucks. I do want to kind of see if AppleScript will listen though, because if it does, then maybe I can create an AppleScript to put OBS in focus when doing this. Could even make it fancy enough that I can figure out the current window of focus when I press the button, switch to OBS and press that button, and then switch back to where it was in focus before. I'm going to do some research and see if that kind of thing is possible, and if it is, then it might make sense to live stream that. Maybe I could keep it shorter. Anyways, so let's get it to do time ranges. So actually, I do think it's going to be pretty simple. The video is 2 hours long, which is actually about how long I was expecting this entire video to be. About 2 hours. But we're a little past that with what I'm adding now. Because frankly, I thought my original plan was to just do the time ranges, not make this whole different change. However, this whole change is actually going to make the time range thing pretty easy. So, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Much of a problem. So, how do we do time ranges? I don't know yet. I'm going to figure it out on the spot though. And, you'll get to see how out on the spot actually goes. You can see that so much of this is trial and error, not only with the data collection, but getting the programming to do the data collection that I want as well. That's also trial and error. So I have that feeling I'm going to be changing the code again. You know what though? Like changing the code so it works through the simulator, but you know what? I don't really care tonight if data collection works right or not, so I'm just gonna do the coding and look at the code and see if it makes sense from that perspective. Try to maybe run through the logic. So essentially, this is when the time ends, right? So we could just have a string that adds the total time range. That would work. You can concatenate. I think that would work pretty well actually. So I want to say let time range equal an empty string. So what's the start of it? Well, when rem becomes true, essentially, is rem is true, that will be our start time. Then the end time will be right here, I think. Because, yeah, I'm going to have to constitute that it's at least 15 minutes long. So, I was thinking about how difficult that time range thing is going to be. However, even though I changed quite a bit like this, I think that same change is going to make this time range thing super easy. Because we actually have code for when it starts and when it ends. All I have to do is essentially display that. So, let's make the variable build the time range. So how do I want the time range to work? I just want it to display the time with that get time function like it already does. Then a space, hyphen, space, then the end time. Essentially it just runs the get time for both the beginning and end, but where it runs is what matters. So it's of course not going to be right on with the chart. I bet the chart's not right on with reality though either, but if I can confirm my wake up time with what it reports at least, then that'll be great. We're only going to have like 8 data points now, maximum, I would say. It's probably not going to get much more than that. Plus, of course, I go to bed like 4 hours earlier than I start dreaming within those first hours and throughout the rest of the night. I don't know if that would actually work out, but if it did, then I would want to do that on a night that my requirement for REM is pretty high, which, let's face it, that's very frequent. My requirement for REM tomorrow is probably going to be quite a bit because with my wild attempts, I lost quite a bit of REM that I should have had, so I imagine some REM rebound will occur tomorrow. Anyway, let's get to the actual coding. Sorry, I'm just feeling really confident with the time range, saying that I feel like I can ramble and still be safe with how much time I'm spending on this. So, let's see. So this is when it starts the interval. So therefore, let's have it log the time. So to log the time, I'm just going to say time range plus equals get time. Hopefully the data type is good. Because yeah, we can concatenate right here just fine. Numbers index J. Oh yeah, so once we get it, then we'll do the numbers index J thing. But there's only ever going to be 8 entries really. Probably like far less. I might even miss the first REM cycle waiting the first 2.5 hours. I know there was one time I went to bed at like a few hours earlier than normal. Then I woke up from my very first dream like 2 hours before I'd normally go to bed. I already had my first dream a few hours before going to bed normally. That's so rare for me to like get such thing. Like it's been over a decade since that's happened for me. I really wish it would happen again, but I don't think I'm gonna get that lucky. Anyways, so can't even think. Time range plus equals get time. Yeah, just the start of it. JavaScript isn't as sensitive about data types, so I think it'll all work out. And then we'll have it do it right here as well. So time range plus equals, so we have the number in the time format that we're used to. I believe this is what I want. Very tempted to test it, but I don't want to screw around too much either. I just want to see if it concatenates okay. I'm not really concerned about actual like timing, so why don't I create some intervals or something. No, I'm not concerned about that either. Time range plus equals get time. time range plus equals that. And then what does time range actually look like? Numbers index 0 equals time range. Is that how we add it to the array? And then of course we gotta update the text by going like this. And of course I'm updating all of the text at the same time, but that's okay because I'm saving a lot of programming I would otherwise have to do. So why don't we see if that happens to work? I just wish that, this would also be a good opportunity to see if set interval works with an anonymous function. It's worth trying. So, set timeout anonymous function. I'm just gonna see like, oh, maybe it does work. And does it just run once or will it keep running? That's my concern. So let's just try it. Set timeout. We're not setting a variable to it, but we are using the anonymous function for this second operation. Oh, then how about like 5 seconds? That's also when I would have it do this. We'll have to see if that ends up working. I don't know if it will though. So an anonymous function does work with set timeout. Nice. So that's what the time range will look like. And of course it'll scroll this as well. So it worked exactly like I thought it would. It seems like with most things in programming it never works exactly how I hope it does. This is one of those very few things that does. But I suppose it's a pretty simple thing compared to what my normal expectations are, so I don't know if that really counts, but very cool either way. So time range does work. I was just seeing if it would concatenate and display correctly. Does that look good? Yeah, I think I would go with that. Have 8 different time ranges of when REM potentially occur to then compare. That's what I would like to do. Normally it's more than an hour in between each REM period, but I figure 30 minutes, that ought to be plenty of time, like for a grace period essentially. So I don't want this to occur, obviously. Okay, so now I understand how the anonymous function works. The only thing is, obviously, arguments with set interval, I don't really know how that works. I think what you could do is you put your function there, the time, and then I think if there's arguments, this is where you would put argument 1, argument 2, and so on. I think that's how it works, but I could be wrong. With an anonymous function, oh yeah, but if we're doing it with an anonymous function, we could just go like this. But actually, we could go without saying the word function as well. That would work just as well. And then here's where you would put the interval. I think you can put like argument 1, argument 2. I don't know. That'd be cool if you could though, because there's a JavaScript program that I've abandoned for a little while, and I essentially did that. I don't know why, but I feel like I have hope for once. I haven't really been feeling very much of that throughout the stream, but I'm feeling that with this now. So essentially, I'll comment this out because, yeah, let's do it. So when it concatenates this, then we'll do. So I'm going to have to change some of the logic regarding this. So data point plus plus won't really occur right there. And I'll do J again, but down here, kind of weird that I'm not going to put this into a function, but it doesn't really matter a whole lot. So data point's already declared, right? So that's not something we have to worry about. 0 divided by 231, that's 0. Then data point will go up by 1. So here is where I'm gonna display time range. So I'm gonna say numbers index j plus equals time range. I think that's all that's required. And then we're going to want to clear time range. After we've added it. And I'm going to leave all this average stuff there. Why would I try to get rid of that right now? That would be for a refactoring session if that's ever going to occur. So, in theory, I think that'll work. So, yeah, this will only trigger once every so often. Going to be at least 45 minutes because we got that 30 minutes of NREM. But essentially by NREM, I mean literally not REM. I'm not talking about like non-REM sleep. Not like NREM 1, 2, or 3. Not those kind of things. More like anything but REM. So is that right? So this is the time it's starting, and so total NREM is greater than or equal to 6. If I want it to start, be able to start as soon as possible, then total NREM equals 0. I'm going to actually have it start out at 6 because I want it to be able to start as soon as it starts logging. Doesn't have to have a 30-minute delay when it starts logging, because that's all of a sudden a 3-hour delay essentially. But this will kind of give it it'll kind of grandfather it in, so to speak. Then from there, it's going to have at least a 30-minute grace period. And from there, I think that's right. So this is when it essentially starts the interval, which makes sense. Supposedly in realm, that's where we can start tracking stuff with the time range. Then this is when it's going to be done. So then figure out where J is, then add that to the list. Oh, we got to update it. When we add it, we also have to update data. There's some stuff in there that I should probably like modify, but I'm not even gonna bother. And I know it returns average HR. I don't even know if that's right anymore, but you know what? I think this is it. I really think this is all there is to it. So this is what I'm going to have on my Fitbit now. So I'm going to enable the developer thing. While I'm doing that, I may as well put stuff on GitHub. And honestly, it doesn't really show anything personal. I wasn't sure whether it did or not before, but essentially to add something to GitHub, what I like to do is copy and paste the code. I go to Atom. I'm just going to duplicate the folder pressing D, rename that to 2. And then we got this index.js and paste the current code. I should probably have some open so this sidebar always stays there. Then I launched the GitHub app. I could use the command line, but the app's much easier. I don't want to add everything to it yet, but I do want to add this. So just like added 10-621 commit and push. Then I quit out of the programs, and I quit out of Atom if I'm done using that. So now if I go to here, we can see that we've just added it. So that's how I add stuff to GitHub essentially. So hopefully we didn't drop any frames when I was doing that. The percent is growing. It was just 1% drop frames not that long ago. That's okay though. Oh, please. It disconnected already thanks to my failure retrospective memory. So yeah, when I fall asleep consciously now, I don't know if I should really talk about that because I don't want you to start doing it unless you're actually at a point where you're at a level where you can essentially start out with watch Lucid Dream Portal, watch his beginner's guide essentially for lucid dreaming, and get the foundation down. Don't do any shortcuts because even if you get it once, it's going to be beginner's luck most likely. That's really all you're going to be experiencing. So yeah, when you get that, that'll be great. But if you want to be a regular lucid dreamer, get the actual foundation down. So okay, the app is on now. I'm just going to assume that it'll work. So yeah, I get the main foundation down, which mainly includes dream recall and journaling, recognizing dream signs, having a reality test practice, get those things down, and then from there, eventually you can get to the point where you start doing dials and wilds, and it's really depends on the situation you're actually in. Just watch Lucid Dream Portal for more information on that. But like today, for example, I ended up waking up not very tired, so it was a very good opportunity for a wild. And I had sleep paralysis because I wasn't focusing on anything in particular at the moment, so I couldn't help but notice it. But If you focus on visualization, you probably won't notice the sensations then. But so don't expect that to occur when doing wilds or lucid dreaming in general. Sure, it can, but you're just more likely to notice it. And it's a completely natural occurrence, so it's part of the dream that's forming. So essentially just allow this stuff to occur no matter how strange it is. Because it probably happens while you're asleep and you always do the right thing then. However, I tend to overthink, so I actually wake up in the middle of that process because of the bad habit thing once again. But just don't form those bad habits and it won't happen. Just keep things simple, allow things to occur. I know that's all I need to do, but I've managed to form a bad habit of overthinking, and that's kind of what happened today. The first time I may have actually been at the end of the REM cycle because I overdid it and had a little bit too much awareness, and because when you do a wild, you have to maintain the right balance between awareness and being able to actually fall asleep, because essentially you're falling asleep while staying awake. I know that doesn't really make sense, but you're falling asleep into a dream consciously, and therefore the right level of awareness needs to be attained or whatever. You just have to have the right level of awareness. Do you notice a difference in webcam clarity now compared to before, especially if you're watching this in 1080p? I do have a pretty low bitrate, so that may limit the quality, but I'm actually noticing it's quite a bit clearer from that preview. So it can do 1080p. I did not know that, but it still can't do like 720p 60 fps, I don't think. Or can it? Why don't we experiment with that? So if I go to 720, 60. I'm not recording in 60 frames per second, so I can't tell. But if I can, would I want to do 1080p with 30 fps, or should I try 720p like I've always been doing at 60 fps? Then the screen would also be recorded at 60 fps. What would be better? If any of you happen to watch this part, then feel free to let me know in the comments. Like, do I want 720p, which was the original resolution of my webcam, but at 60 frames per second, so it'll be a lot smoother than this. And then the screen recording would also be 60 fps. Or would you rather have this on 1080p and still have it 30 fps like it is? Because the webcam can't do 1080p 60, I don't believe. Just 720p 60. So anyway, yeah, so I've gotten into the habit of overthinking. That's really what my main point was when it comes to wilds, because I'll be like, especially if I'm doing like a de-ild, which is pretty much what occurred today. It was a wild from the very start the second time, but it de-ild the first time. And I usually notice sleep paralysis because I'm not paying attention. I'm not really doing like visualization or anything like that. That's not my focal point. So I still have enough focus to maintain awareness, but not enough focus to be distracted from sleep paralysis, essentially. So, but if I'm focusing on like hypnagogia and stuff and engaging with that, then all of a sudden I don't notice the sleep paralysis sensations anymore. I just notice I'm lying on my bed with hypnagogia occurring. That's pretty much it. But if there's none of that, then I notice the high-pitched tone, which I describe as like a pulsing sensation right in the brain itself, pretty much. I personally believe that it's atonia pumping to the muscles. That's what paralyzes the muscles while dreaming. But I I don't know if that's for sure the case or not, but it really doesn't matter because the end goal is lucid dreaming, right? So, yeah. So, I may try again tomorrow because really you're trying to, the technique that you do, it depends on your situation and what works best for you, but get the foundation down first, like dream recall, dream journaling, identifying dream signs so you can actually recognize when you're dreaming every once in a while. And but do it one step at a time and try to maybe get that decent before you do techniques, because techniques are really just tricking you into doing the original thing for a lucid dream. So yeah, I just watched Lucid Dream Portal's video. Don't really fully trust my word because I may accidentally be wrong about something without realizing it. Mind you, Daniel's almost done a lifetime of research in his lifetime practically, so he's the expert. Leave everything up to him. It's amazing how easy it is to get something wrong. So yeah. So I think I'm going to wrap up this stream since I pretty much got that all figured out. So, by the way, my battery percent went down by 3%. So it is slowly draining with... Where's Al Dente? I don't see it anywhere. Either way, it's... appears to be draining, but I don't know that for sure. So anyway, that's it. It's 97%. I know I didn't show the screen, but it's essentially 97%. Al dente is what limits it to like 80%, and I notice I don't have it open. That's essentially what happens. So that's going to be it. So I'll probably do that Raspberry Pi live stream later tonight as well. But otherwise, that's going to be it. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let me know. I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good one. Peace.